Today I have returned like I said I would to bring you the second part of my top 13 anime of 2013. So naturally, if you've yet to see the first part, then follow the link on the screen right now and you'll be directed to it. But if you've already seen it or have just come back from seeing it, welcome back and let's waste no more time and proceed with my top 5. Number 5. This was a series that I really didn't care all that much for when it first started airing. It seemed like a fairly mundane tale of kids in a school learning some strange magic, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere these same-sex relationships started happening. But Shinsekai Yuri from the New World ended up being so much more than this. A1 Pictures gave us a 25-episode fantasy adventure series that dips into more themes and subgenres by the end of it than I even care to list off. The story revolves around a group of friends in a future Japan where the human race have awakened to an advanced power of telekinesis. But the world is not all as it seems on the surface, and through various major incidents, mysteries unfurl, and some truly thought-provoking themes are brought about. There are various time skips throughout the series, and it's one of very few shows that gives you a full picture of its main characters' lives from a young age all the way up through adulthood. If you have yet to watch this thing, then you have truly missed out on something unique. So I'd highly advise you give it a go, but as with me, it may take you a fair few episodes to really get into it. Number 4. This is one of those series with a fairly unique and interesting concept, one of which that many shows since have tried to replicate and failed miserably to do so. Hataraku Maoh-Sama, The Devil is a Part-Timer, a 13-episode slice-of-life fantasy comedy by White Fox, is a series that truly did exceed every possible expectation I could have had for it. It's a story about a devil king who is thwarted by heroes in his own realm and ends up escaping his world and ends up in a modern-day Tokyo. So what does he decide to do when he gets there to regain his powers and take this world for his own? He takes it one step at a time, starting by becoming the best Dan McRonald's cashier he could possibly be. Seems silly, seems ridiculous, and it absolutely is, and it was bloody brilliant. It was a slice-of-life comedy with a dynamic that felt like it was designed to bring about some of the greatest and most amusing situations the genre is capable of. But along for the ride came enough of a legitimate story to actually give this thing a decent arcing narrative that allowed both to give it a conclusive ending and leave me gasping for more. So the day a season 2 of Maoh-Sama is announced is a day that this guy is very, very happy. Number 3. Of the 3 full-length offerings KyoAni gave us this year, it's only the most controversial and talked about that actually made its way onto my top 13. Tamako Market was an enjoyable series for what it was, and Kyokai no Kanata actually ended up being something pretty interesting during its mid to late stages. But they weren't quite good enough to make the cut. The 12 episodes of free Iwatobi Swim Club, however, ended up being one of the biggest highlights of my year. When the series started up, everyone simply thought that this was going to be fan service for girls, a Fujoshi pandering slice of life about banana hammocks and rippling wetness. And whilst it certainly did achieve that for many, it was significantly more than I thought it would be. This year I gained a major love for sports anime, and this series was something that truly appealed to that side of my taste at times. It was able to offer some great comedy, had some very amusing and likeable characters, and it goes without saying that the animation was absolutely gorgeous. 3 was not just fan service for girls, it was a slice of life sports series that reminded everyone why Kyoto Animation have the reputation that they do. And we were told that they would see us next summer, and I am thoroughly looking forward to it. Number 2. This series is pretty much the reason I had to make sure I included sequels, providing both seasons aired this year. Because though many didn't, the first season of Little Busters was absolutely something I enjoyed, but I don't think it would have made it onto this list on its own. But in the season just gone, we saw a follow-up, and Little Busters' refrain was something truly, truly incredible that I really was not expecting. Because I enjoyed the first season, but it wasn't the romance series that it seemed like it was presented to be. It was just a fun and enjoyable story about a group of friends living out their daily lives whilst fighting against eclectic spats of drama that threatened to break them apart. It was entertaining and absolutely worth watching. But if you're one of those people that brushed it aside saying it's a key adaptation by JC Staff and not KyoAni, therefore it's not good, then you need to rethink your decision. As even if you don't get all that much from the first season, Refrain was an emotional rollercoaster I really wasn't prepared for. The events that took place weren't just your usual someone dies and everyone else gets sad, because it took on this really unique stance that led me to realise how much I really cared about these characters. I won't say anything more than that as I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it really and truly is worth your time, if for nothing more than the incredible soundtrack alone. alone. So Little Busters was split into a first season of 26 and a second season of 13. And in many ways I really can legitimately say that Refrain is to Little Busters as After Story is to Clannad. And don't just take my word for it. As Jin Maeda, one of the founding members of Key, considers Refrain to be his masterpiece and greatest work. So check it out, I really don't think you'll regret it. For me, this has been a fantastic year for anime. There may have been no massive standout series that was collectively loved by the entire community as with shows like Fate Zero or Steins Gate, but all around I enjoyed a great deal of what this year brought to the table, but none more so than one of the series I started this year with and the show that takes the top spot on my list. Number 1.
I would like to show, cut open my skull, look into my head. I don't know why I'm so harsh, I can't be so rash, I'm going to clash, cause I feel.
Gen Urobuchi is a name that has rapidly grown to high acclaim since his recent works have really taken off and become some of the biggest franchises in the industry. His latest work in Gargantia was a solid and enjoyable series, but for me it truly paled in comparison to what he's capable of. Psycho Pass, whilst not being quite on a level of Madoka and Fate Zero, was still for me a series that broadcasts to the world just how much talent this guy has. And with its 22 episodes being handled by Production IG, as with many of his series, we know it was in capable hands. Psycho Pass is a sci-fi crime thriller set in a world where instead of traditional law enforcement methods, they utilise the Sybil system, which governs humanity by allocating each member of society a psychopath identification, which measures their crime coefficient through various methods. If an individual's crime coefficient exceeds a certain number, they are deemed a hazard to society, labelled a latent criminal, and become subject to law enforcement. In this world, we follow the law enforcement team who work to keep order after the incidents that occur as a result of the machinations of one incredible villain. It operates in short semi-episodic arcs early on until the mysteries behind this villain are unravelled and brought full circle in the end. I deem this to be the greatest anime of 2013, not only because I find this setting to be incredibly interesting and imaginative, but because it has some of the most well-written characters that Urobuchi is capable of and a story that operates on so many levels. Everyone and everything got full development, the series as a whole just screams three-dimensional, and it is something I hold in very high regard. And Makishima Shogo is actually now one of my favourite villains of all time. I thought the guy was absolutely magnificent and he's almost comparable to Johann Lieber. I'd call this series a love child of Monster and Ghost in the Shell, so if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then I fully recommend it to all of you. So there we go, those are what I deem to be the top 13 best and my favourite anime of 2013. But before I run along, why don't you all tell me what your favourite shows from last year were? Of course I don't expect a full 13 out of all of you, but if you could rustle up a top 5 or even just your number 1, then I'd really enjoy reading those comments. And another thing I'd like to hear from you is that excluding Attack on Titan, Robotics Notes and Free, which of these series would you like to hear me review the most? And then the one with the most votes should be coming to you all as soon as I'm able. And with that, I wish you all a very happy new year. I have been BakaShift from otakukato.com, and I may or may not see you next week.
You're never